Chapter 61 Howling Silver Wolf. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This little wolf cub has been calling for a long time, and he is finally coming out. Yi Yun smiled lightly. Ouch! The shadow of the silver wolf in the blood moon suddenly let out a huge howl. At this moment, Elder Luo, who was fighting, was trembling with fear. His hands trembled and his sword almost fell out. Call. A flash of silver light flashed, the middle-aged werewolf slammed the mace over, hitting Elder Luo on the shoulder. Ah! Elder Luo vomited blood and fell from the air. The heads of the major sects and some clan leaders who were fighting were shocked to see Elder Luo of the Qitian Sword Sect defeated. At this moment, the changes in their emotions made them no longer able to suppress the strange toxicity in their bodies. They roared to the sky one after another, their skin cracked, and their blood gurgled to the ground, including those Yuan-Hai realm monks in the arena. There are no exceptions. There was no one in front of him. Su Wani took a breath and looked around, only to find that she was the only one standing now. There were some tall werewolves all around. This human monk seems to be an outsider and has not been poisoned by us, clan leader, a young werewolf said loudly. You guys do it, the middle-aged werewolf in the god-shaping realm said calmly in mid-air. In an instant, dozens of Yuan-Hai realm werewolves rushed toward Su Wani, again and again. There was a gentle sound of horse hooves. All the werewolves were knocked unconscious in mid-air. Who are you pretending to be, a ghost? The middle-aged werewolf in the god-shaping realm was immediately shocked. Space fluctuations. A black carriage suddenly appeared on the ring. The big black horse in front of the carriage suddenly raised his head and looked at the middle-aged werewolf and grinned, revealing his big white teeth. Seeing such a strange black carriage suddenly appearing, the middle-aged werewolf had a solemn expression on his face. Ancestor. Su Wani hurriedly bowed and saluted. Take a break for now and let's see what's going on. You have been able to break through 2 small realms after a series of fierce battles. It is already very valuable. If you continue to fight, it will be more harmful than helpful to you, Yi Yun said softly. Su Wani looked grateful. She inserted the 7-star Longyuan sword behind her back and stood next to the carriage. There's someone else in the carriage. The middle-aged werewolf was suddenly startled. He didn't even feel anyone's presence, which showed that the other person was also a master. He didn't dare to act rashly. This black carriage came from a strange place and was not from Silver Moon City. Now that the formation is reaching a critical moment, the ancestor of the Silver Moon Wolf clan, the Shaotian Silver Wolf, is about to be resurrected. He looked up at the blood moon in the sky. In the blood moon, the silhouette of the silver wolf became increasingly clear. The blood in the middle-aged werewolf's body was already boiling. Ouch! He couldn't help but roar to the sky. The large formation underground covering the entire Silver Moon City once again sent a large amount of energy and blood power towards the blood moon in the sky. A bright silver light suddenly fell from the blood moon, forming a huge silver wolf in mid-air. This huge silver wolf shone with silver luster all over its body. It was as big as a hill, and its pair of silver wings exuded a cold light. He had a pair of bloody eyes, exuding a cold murderous aura. An unimaginably powerful pressure fell from the sky. See the ancestors. Seeing this familiar howling silver wolf, all members of the Silver Moon Wolf clan knelt on the ground, kowtowing with fanaticism on their faces. It's so difficult for you. It took so long to revive me. Xiaoye Silver Wolf looked around, with a scornful aura in his eyes. He slowly said, the Silver Moon Werewolf clan has risen from now on, and I am the only one in the sky and on earth. This sentence immediately ignited the passion in the Silver Moon Werewolf's heart. I am the only one in heaven and on earth. Everyone roared angrily. It was earth-shattering, and the entire Silver Moon City seemed to be shaking at the sound. I'm not afraid of the strong wind flashing my tongue. The big black cat suddenly stood up from Su Wani's shoulders, turned into a black light, and rushed into the air. It transformed in mid-air and turned into a big black cat the size of a small mountain. From a distance, it looks like a giant black panther. At this moment, the big black cat's black fur was shining with luster, and its pair of black cat eyes also shone with a frightening cold light. It stretched out its cat paws, stuck out its blood-red tongue, and gently licked the sharp claws. Howling Sky Silver Wolf, I, the cat, will play with you, the big black cat said disdainfully. But when Xiaotian's silver wolf was feeling refreshed, a big black cat about the same size as him suddenly appeared in front of his eyes, and he couldn't help but froze for a moment, when he saw clearly that this big black cat had 3 tails behind its butt. He was shocked. It turned out to be a 9-tailed civet. It is a powerful monster beast that is not inferior to him in terms of blood, and the other party's cultivation level is actually on par with his own. Both of them are in the nirvana state. This time, he felt a sense of crisis. 9-tailed civet, you and I have no grudges in the past, and we have no grudges in recent times. Why do you have to be at odds with me? That Howling Sky Silver Wolf roared angrily. This Uncle Cat just sees that you are too arrogant and wants to teach you a lesson. That the big black cat chuckled and rushed towards the Howling Sky Silver Wolf. Xiaotian's silver wolf was not to be outdone. 2 huge monsters immediately started fighting in the sky. Suddenly, a huge rumbling sound made the whole earth tremble. After all, these are 2 great demons in the Nirvana realm fighting. All the silver moon werewolves raised their heads and looked at the sky. Their faces were extremely ugly at this moment. Unexpectedly, just after summoning the ancestor, a black 9-tailed civet suddenly appeared, with a level of cultivation comparable to that of the ancestor. The middle-aged werewolf looked at the black carriage again. There was a look of horror in his eyes. What is the origin of the people in the carriage? It can actually drive the 9-tailed civet cat in Nirvana to be a thug. Boom! The overwhelming sound resounded through the sky. The battle between Xiaoya Sirius and 9-tailed civet cat has been going on fiercely. After a stick of incense, they both suffered some injuries. However, the 9-tailed civet's injuries were slightly more serious. Its defense is weaker than Xiaoya Sirius, so it will be seriously injured by the same attack. You little wolf bastard, you still dare to kill me. Let's see how your Uncle Cat deals with you. That the big black cat became vicious and attacked the Howling Sky Silver Wolf desperately. It's a completely exchanging injury for injury style of play. You madman, do you have to lose both sides with me? Xiaotian's silver wolf was so angry that he also started to curse. After all, they are both at the same level of strength, so there is really no need to fight so desperately. Master, the kitten is very hard-working. That the big black horse turned his head and said with a smile in the direction of the carriage. This is considered a certificate of submission. Yi Yun smiled lightly and didn't take it seriously. Seeing the blood continuously falling from the air, Su Wani felt a little anxious. After all, this senior cat once saved her life. Chapter 62 Uncle Ma is too cruel. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Bang bang. Boom. The battle between Howling Sky Silver Wolf and Big Black Cat became more and more intense. 9-tailed civet, don't force me. That with more injuries on his body, Xiaotian's silver wolf couldn't help roaring loudly. You little wolf, if you have the ability, just say hello to your Uncle Cat. If Uncle Cat frowns, he will take your last name. That the big black cat sneered frequently and continued to bombard the Howling Sky Silver Wolf. Good. Xiaotian's silver wolf was so angry that he was shaking all over. He opened his mouth suddenly and swallowed it, facing the blood moon in the sky. In an instant, the world became dark. Xiaotian's silver wolf activated his bloodline magical power at the cost of losing 30% of his blood essence. Boom. As fast as lightning, he pounced forward and slapped the 9-tailed civet down from mid-air with one paw. This blow was at least 3 times more powerful than its usual strength. Xiaotian's silver wolf believed that the 9-tailed civet cat would definitely be seriously injured and would no longer be able to fight. Call. A huge figure like a small black mountain fell from the sky. If it fell to the ground, I'm afraid the entire city lord's mansion would be smashed into a big crater. Su Wani's eyes widened and she stared blankly at senior cat falling from the sky. She was at her wit's end. Inside the carriage, Yi Yun gently raised his hand in the air. The big black cat's huge body suddenly shrank and flew back to the carriage. The big black cat lay stretched out on the carriage and said angrily, Master, leave me alone. I want to fight this little wolf cub for 300 rounds. Fuck you, you're seriously injured and can't even lift your claws. You still want to fight for 300 rounds? That the big black horse laughed teasingly from the side. Yi Yun smiled. Uncle Ma, don't make fun of me. I know my strength, but that little wolf cub is too arrogant. No matter what I say, I can't make him get what he wants. that the big black cat said with a sad face. It was seriously injured by the innate magical power of Xiaotian's silver wolf, and indeed it had no strength to fight anymore at this moment. It's nothing more than chatting around. Now, above the void, the howling sky silver wolf's whole body glowed with bright silver light, its huge wings spread out, majestic, like a divine wolf that came out of the mythical kingdom, destroyed the greatest opponent, the nine-tailed civet. Xiaotian's silver wolf felt so relieved that he couldn't help but look up to the sky and let out a wolf howl. Master, this little wolf bastard is so arrogant, that the big black horse kept kicking his hooves and said. Okay, then go ahead. Yi Yun smiled softly and waved his hand. The big dark horse suddenly became excited, it shook its body, broke away from the reins, and flew into the air. Xiaotian's silver wolf was feeling proud when he suddenly saw a black light appearing in front of his eyes. It was so fast that it didn't even react. Xiaotian's silver wolf's eyes widened suddenly, looking at the big black horse that suddenly appeared in front of him. What kind of bad luck did you have today? First there was a big black cat, and then there was a big black horse. They are all black. Xiaotian's silver wolf shook his shiny silver wolf fur and cursed angrily. The big black horse's eyes bulged out. Damn it. How dare this little wolf scold him? So damn arrogant. Before the big black horse had time to release its powerful aura, it raised its hooves, rushed over, and landed on Xiaotian's silver wolf's head. Boom. This horse's hoof is full of unimaginable power. Xiaotian's silver wolf was immediately kicked so hard that he had a splitting headache. He was dizzy and had stars in his eyes. He screamed and fell down. Silly. The big black horse stood in the void, proudly looking at the falling howling silver wolf, and sneered. The people of the Silver Moon Wolf clan below were all shocked when they saw their ancestor, Xiaotian's silver wolf, being attacked by a big black horse and falling from the sky. Inside the carriage, seeing that the big dark horse didn't kill Xiaotian's silver wolf instantly, Yi Yun also shook his head and smiled. The big dark horse is also a playful monster. It seems that it wants to torture the arrogant howling sky silver wolf. Yi Yun did not stop him. Just as he was about to fall to the ground, Xiaotian's silver wolf suddenly came to his senses, flapped his wings, and took off again. You're such a big dark horse, how dare you sneak attack your grandpa wolf? After Xiaotian's silver wolf finished speaking, he charged towards the big black horse angrily. I don't know if I was knocked dizzy by this hoof, so much so that his speaking style was different from before. This made the Silver Moon Wolf clan below all stunned. How come this ancestor talks like a second-generation ancestor, after flying into the air? The howling sky silver wolf and the big black horse faced each other. From a distance, he looked carefully at the big black horse in front of him, which was as small as a small black ant. For a moment, he couldn't even see the cultivation level of this big dark horse. When hesitating, the big black horse shook his sturdy body and let out a trace of his breath, just such a hint of breath. It landed on Xiaotian's silver wolf, and its expression suddenly changed. Is this the eternal realm? Xiaotian's silver wolf also knew what he was doing and immediately knelt down in the void. Uncle Ma, please spare the little wolf's life. Just now, the little wolf was blind and didn't recognize you. Xiaotian's silver wolf changed the subject and began to kneel down and beg for mercy. The big black horse bared his teeth and smiled. Little wolf cub, I'll give you a chance and run away quickly. Run away. Xiaotian's silver wolf understood the meaning of the big black horse's words. He quickly stood up, flapped his wings, and flew away. It is the howling sky silver wolf, and its speed is also one of its innate magical powers. A pair of huge silver wings, once fanned, can fly thousands of miles in an instant, unimaginably fast. In the square, a member of the Silver Moon Wolf clan was kneeling on the ground. At this moment, everyone was stunned. They didn't expect that their ancestor would suddenly run away when facing the big dark horse. What should we do if they are left? Everyone looked at each other, not knowing what to do for a moment. After counting silently in my heart for dozens of seconds, the big black horse then lazily raised his head, looked in the direction where the howling sky silver wolf disappeared, opened his mouth, and spit out a blue light. This blue light cut through the night sky like a bolt of lightning. It disappeared in an instant. The next moment, this blue light flew back from a distance at high speed, enveloped in the gleaming blue light was the howling sky silver wolf that had fled far away. Call. The big black horse swayed and suddenly became as huge as a mountain, shrouding the entire Silver Moon City in its shadow. The big black horse opened its terrifying big mouth, and the blue light went in. At the same time, the Howling Sky Silver Wolf also entered its mouth, and the big black horse started chewing. Click, click, streams of blood continued to flow from his mouth. Howling Sky Silver Wolf screamed, but he couldn't move. I don't know what that blue light is. It fled tens of thousands of miles away, but was pulled back in an instant. The big black horse ate with gusto and his mouth was bleeding. The big black cat lying on the carriage saw this scene. At that time, I was so scared that I rolled my eyes and fainted. Uncle Ma is so cruel. Chapter 63. In one breath, Silver Moon City was wiped out. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Seeing the big black cat, it was so frightened that it fainted and lay stretched out on the carriage. The posture was really inelegant. Yin clicked lightly, and a ray of divine power fell into the big black cat's body. The big black cat suddenly opened its eyes as if it had taken an aphrodisiac. The magical power in the body made it fierce and powerful, and both eyes glowed green. Master, what on earth is this? The big black cat knelt on the carriage, bowed his hands, and looked excited. You don't have to ask, just refine it slowly. Yi Yun said calmly. In the current state of the big black cat, even if you tell it, it cannot understand the mystery of divine power. This ray of divine power that Yi Yun distributed was a drop in the bucket to him. It's like pulling a drop of sea water out of the ocean. This drop of seawater like divine power is like a vast ocean to the big black cat. If it continues to comprehend during the refining process, this divine power will play an unimaginable role in giving birth to 9 tails. At this time, Xiaotian Silver Wolf's big black horse had finished eating, and his body returned to normal size in a flash before falling down. The people of the Silver Moon Wolf clan on the ground had already been frightened into unconsciousness. Bald. The big black horse put the reins on his body again and licked the blood from his mouth. Seeing Uncle Ma being so cruel, the big black cat lay trembling in the back with a look of fear on his face and did not dare to say a word. Kitten, I won't eat you. Why are you so scared? The big black horse bared his teeth and smiled. The big black cat quickly raised its 2 paws and covered its head, not daring to look at the cruel smile on Uncle Ma's face. Even Amelia Sue felt an indescribable feeling of horror in her heart when facing the big dark horse at this moment. I never expected that the always docile big dark horse could be so terrifying. The Xiaotian Silver Wolf, which was as big as a small mountain, ate it as soon as it was told to eat. It tastes crunchy and crunchy. It's unimaginable. The car curtain is lifted. Yi Yun suddenly walked out and stood on the carriage. He looked around, with an extremely indifferent expression on his face. Su Wani looked at her ancestor's beautiful profile and was surprised. Old ancestor, why did you suddenly appear? When the battle was so fierce before, the ancestors sat firmly in the carriage. At this time, I saw the ancestor let out a breath of fresh air. This fresh air spread around. Then, a scene that shocked Su Wani happened. Everything touched by the clear air, whether it was various corpses, unconscious people of the Silver Moon Wolf clan, flowers, plants, trees, and various buildings, turned into a puff of blue smoke at this moment and disappeared out of thin air. This breath of fresh air expands extremely quickly. In Su Wani's shocked eyes, everything around her was quickly disappearing. It only took 2 or 3 breaths of shock. Looking at the surrounding scene, Su Wani's eyes widened again. At this time, the entire huge Silver Moon City disappeared. The place where he stood was flat land, with no trace of the past. Ancestor. He is too terrifying. Is this the power of the true God? Su Wani's eyes widened and she swallowed hard. It was really hard for her to use words to describe the shock in her heart at this moment. With a breath of fresh air, the entire Silver Moon City disappeared, leave no trace behind. Horrible. The big black cat stretched its neck and looked at the vanished Silver Moon City stupidly, almost scaring itself to the point of peeing again. Master, he is too scary. With this breath, the entire Silver Moon City disappeared. I'm afraid, even the strongest in the Eternal Realm can't do it. My master must be a god, or the most powerful god among the gods. The big black cat thought to himself. It raised its head and stared at the majestic figure that looked like a god's mansion. It couldn't help but worship him in its heart. It quickly fell to the ground and lay on the carriage without daring to get up. the big dark horse blinked. The master is the master, such a powerful magical power has already surpassed the realm of true gods. Little girl, it's time for you to come out. Yi Yun suddenly pointed forward with his hand, and saw the soil rolling, and a little girl in green clothes crawled out from it. Su Wani's eyes suddenly widened. Isn't this an evergreen butterfly? Unexpectedly, the ancestor actually left her a life. The evergreen butterfly came out of the soil with a gray face, looked around, and was stunned. Where is this? Where has Silver Moon City gone? That she said to herself with a confused look on her face. Then, Evergreen Butterfly saw the black carriage and Su Wani in a dazzling golden robe standing beside the carriage. Sister Su, is it really great that you are still alive? That Evergreen Butterfly rushed over, hugged Su Wani, and cried bitterly. Su Wani couldn't laugh or cry at this moment. She felt that this girl seemed to be frightened. She kept patting Evergreen Butterfly on the back and comforted her softly. Yi Yun was still standing on the carriage, looking at the little girl in green with his hands behind his back, a faint smile on his face. This little girl was specially protected by him, because, he saw a familiar sign on this little girl. Sister Su, I'm sorry for making you laugh. After venting her emotions, Evergreen Dai left Su Wani's arms, her apple-like face turning red. Fine. Amelia Su smiled and shook her head. Sister Su, what happened just now? Where did Silver Moon City go? Evergreen Butterfly asked curiously. Su Wani's expression paused slightly and she looked at her ancestor. Silver Moon City was blown away by her ancestors. This matter was too important, and she did not dare to talk about it casually. Yi Yun smiled and said, Little girl, just let this matter settle in your stomach. Don't ask me about it again in the future. Okay. Evergreen Butterfly nodded as if understanding. Yi Yun asked again, Does your ancestor have an ancestor named Chang Yuchen? That Evergreen Butterfly's eyes widened and she was immediately shocked. The Chang family has an ancestral memorial tablet. When she was a child, she would go in every year to offer incense to her ancestors, and the first one on the list is this ancestor Chang Yuchen. Brother, how do you know the names of my ancestors? Evergreen Butterfly asked stammeringly. The big black cat next to him, when he heard what Evergreen Butterfly said, he immediately turned over and said angrily, You little girl, you are so rude, you dare to call me big brother, you are trying to take advantage of you. Is Sister Sue's cheap? Ah! Evergreen Butterfly was startled when she looked at the big black cat that could only talk. Then what should I call you? Sister Su. Evergreen Butterfly cast her eyes for help on Su Wani. Before Su Wani could speak, Yi Yun smiled lightly and said, Just call me Master. After all, you are not from my sect. Evergreen Butterfly understood immediately and bowed obediently. Hello, sir. Let's go, sit on the carriage, show the way, and go to your house. After Yi Yun finished speaking, he entered the carriage. Go to my house. Evergreen Butterfly was also a little confused for a moment. However, she quickly reacted. She could tell that this man in white was definitely not an ordinary person. She quickly jumped onto the carriage and sat down. Su Wani sat on the other side. Evergreen Butterfly pointed in one direction. Her face suddenly turned red, and she said with a guilty conscience, Sister Su, my home is in that direction, but it's a bit far away. How far is it? Su Wani laughed softly. About more than 20,000 miles. After finishing speaking, Evergreen Butterfly lowered her head in embarrassment. Sister Ludi, have you come all this way to Silver Moon City to participate in the Sanyuan martial arts tournament? Su Wani was shocked. A journey of more than 20,000 miles is not an ordinary distance. This little girl on the second level of the Yuan Hai realm has to travel not far away 20,000 miles to Silver Moon City alone. The journey is hard and it is really not easy. Chapter 64 The Power of a Fart. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Sister Su, there is nothing I can do. Our Chang family is located in a remote area and has limited family resources. We can only train my brother. The Sanyuan Martial Arts Club is my only chance to get ahead, so a few months ago, I started on the road. Evergreen Butterfly's eyes turned red, and she sighed softly and said, That's not easy for you. Su Wani also sighed and said with great sympathy, she has endured a lot of hardships with her master since she was a child. She has been homeless and has very few training resources, so she understands Evergreen Butterfly very well. The Evergreen Butterfly is so young yet so sensible. In order not to occupy the family's training resources, he came all the way to Silver Moon City, hoping to get a chance to join a first-class sect through the Sanyuan Martial Arts Association. Unexpectedly, a disaster occurred in Silver Moon City. Let this little girl's dream be shattered, but the ancestors seem to have an old relationship with the ancestors of the Chang family, and now they are rushing to go there. It is estimated that the crisis in the Chang family will be resolved soon. Several thoughts flashed through Su Wani's mind. Wow, this carriage goes so fast, that the big black horse ran at a high speed, but it was still very fast, so fast that the surrounding scenery was blurred. The Evergreen Butterfly couldn't help but exclaimed, "This big black horse with an unattractive appearance is really extraordinary. When it runs, it can outrun the famous dragon colt of the Kamikaze dynasty." Although the big black horse ran very fast, the carriage was as smooth as usual. Su Wani closed her eyes slightly, with no distracting thoughts in her mind, and used the Shenlong Sect's unique skills to stabilize the realm that she had just broken through to the third level of Yuanhai realm, in order not to shock the world and scare the young girl. Yi Yun deliberately asked the big dark horse to lower his speed, but the big black horse only traveled 3 days for a journey of 20,000 miles. It's so fast. It'll be here in 3 days. Looking at the familiar Xianyang County, an expression of extreme shock appeared on the small round face like an evergreen butterfly's apple. At first, it took her several months. Inside the carriage, Yi Yun, who had been concentrating with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. He glanced at Xianyang County lightly, thoughtfully. Xianyang County is a small place on the border of the Kamikaze dynasty. The Chang family is not outstanding in Xianyang County and can barely be regarded as a second-rate family. Now, a black carriage drove slowly and stopped in front of the Chang mansion. "Huh, we're home." Evergreen Butterfly jumped off the carriage, ran to the vermilion door, and gently clicked the iron door knocker twice. "That's weird, why is the door still closed?" Evergreen Butterfly said while rolling her eyes. "The door to her house is usually open and there are guards at the door." After a while, footsteps came and the door slowly opened. An old man wearing a black robe and a small melon-skin hat walked out. "It turns out the lady is back." After seeing the person clearly through the crack in the door, the old man forced a smile and opened the door completely. "Uncle Zhao, what happened at home?" Seeing the sad look on the old man's face and the deserted courtyard, Evergreen Dai suddenly had a bad premonition in his heart. "Miss, let's wait until we see the master." The old man named Zhao sighed. When he looked up, he saw a black carriage parked outside, with a beautiful woman in gold robe sitting on the carriage. "Miss, is this your friend?" The old man surnamed Zhao couldn't help but ask. Evergreen Dai smiled quickly and nodded. "Uncle Zhao, this is my sister Su." The car curtain is raised. Yi Yun walked out of the car, took a step forward, and landed on the ground. Seeing all the ancestors coming out, Su Wani was frightened. She also jumped down from the carriage and stood neatly behind her ancestor. Yi Yun put his hands behind his back, looking at the plaque above the door of the mansion. He fell into brief contemplation. "Master, please come in with me." Evergreen Butterfly walked up and said respectfully. Yi Yun nodded. The Evergreen Butterfly leads the way, and Yi Yun walks with his hands behind his back. Su Wani followed her ancestor closely. The big black cat was still lying on the carriage. "Uncle Ma, the atmosphere in the Chang family is not right. It feels like someone is dead." The big black cat raised his head and glanced at the Chang mansion and whispered. "Nonsense." The big black horse turned his head and cursed angrily. Bang! Its chrysanthemums trembled, and a jet of air suddenly spurted out. This ferocious air flow fell on the big black cat, and it was like a mountain falling down, crushing its heart, liver, spleen, lungs and kidneys into a ball. "Uncle Ma, please spare my life." The big black cat covered its nose and quickly begged for mercy. It didn't expect that it would receive a strong counterattack from Uncle Ma after saying something casually. This counterattack not only carries flavor, but also carries tremendous pressure. "Kitten, stop talking nonsense from now on. The master has personally gone into this place. Do you think it can be an ordinary place?" The big black horse said angrily. The horse's tail moved twice, and the airflow disappeared immediately. "Uncle Ma, you are right." That the big black cat was startled and nodded repeatedly, feeling relieved. The big black cat never expected that Uncle Ma's fart seemed to be too much for its small body to bear. Horrible. Evergreen Butterfly walked all the way and brought Yi Yun to the main hall. As soon as she entered the door, she found her old father leaning on the chair with his crotch stretched out. His face was pale and his complexion was extremely poor. "Dad, what's wrong with you?" Evergreen Butterfly rushed over and quickly supported her father's body. "Xiao Dai, are you back so soon? Is there any result from the Sanyuan Martial Arts Association?" Chang Feng coughed twice and asked. "Dad, my daughter did not get a ranking." Evergreen Butterfly lowered her head and said in shame. Chang Feng looked sad and chuckled. "It doesn't matter, you are still young." As he said that, he turned his eyes and saw Yi Yun and Su Wani standing aside, with a look of surprise in his eyes. This young man in a white robe is spotless and has a refined temperament, just like an immortal who stepped out of a painting. The other girl was about 18 or 19 years old, with a beautiful face, a dazzling golden robe, a heroic figure, and a striking red sword on her back. Seeing that this man and woman were as beautiful as jade, Chang Feng knew that these two people were by no means ordinary people. "Dad, where is my eldest brother?" Evergreen Butterfly asked from the side. "He's resting in the back." Chang Feng coughed twice more and did not tell his daughter the truth of the matter. Evergreen Butterfly is still young, simple, and doesn't think too much. She lay next to Chang Feng's ear and whispered, "Dad, let me take this old man to the ancestral temple first. He knows an ancestor of our family." "Oh, good." Chang Feng was shocked and agreed without thinking. Although his cultivation level is not high, he is only at the 10th level of Yuan High Realm, but his eyes are very experienced, and it can be seen that this man in white clothes who is like an immortal, is definitely not an ordinary person. Perhaps he is a peerless expert. That is why, Chang Feng agreed without hesitation. Evergreen Butterfly was filled with joy, walked to Yi Yun's side, and said respectfully, "Master, I will take you there. I can just go." Yi Yun shook his head slightly, his eyes flickered, and he glanced at Su Wani. "You stay here." "Okay, ancestor." Su Wani perked up and said respectfully quickly, "Ancestor." Chang Feng was even more shocked when he saw that this young man in white was actually the ancestor of this stunning beauty. This person is definitely not young, no wonder. We'll get to know the ancestors of his family. Yi Yun walked alone with his hands behind his back, drifting away, heading straight to the ancestral temple in the backyard. Evergreen Dai smiled and was about to pour a cup of hot tea for Su Wani. Suddenly, several powerful breaths came from midair. "Chang Feng, the 3-day deadline has come. If you don't hand over your Chang family's ancestral skills, I will destroy your entire family today." A thunderous roar suddenly resounded over the entire Chang mansion. Chapter 65. I want both beauty and sword. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The backyard of the Shen family, a figure in white passed through the closed door and mysteriously appeared in the ancestral temple. The light inside the ancestral temple is dim, and there are rows of dark red spiritual tablets. Some are old and some are as new as ever. Yi Yun's eyes moved slowly. Finally, in a dark corner, I found a spiritual tablet with a vicissitude of life. The spiritual position of ancestor Chang Yuchen. Yi Yun walked over silently and lit a stick of incense. "Good brother, I didn't expect that after 100,000 years, I would still be able to come to the Chang family to see you." Yi Yun said softly, his eyes filled with nostalgia. 100,000 years ago, Yi Yun took over the position of the leader of Shenlong Sect at the age of 18. At that time, Chang Yuchen was a good friend he met when he was 15 years old, because he was born in the Shenlong Sect, with extraordinary talents, outstanding combat power, and a bohemian personality. Yi Yun was not only famous on the Cangnan continent, but he was also a great bully at the time, and Chang Yuchen is one of his younger brothers. At that time, this guy was practicing the Yuanyang Overlord body magic skill, and his physical body became extremely powerful. He was one of Yi Yun's most capable younger brothers in the past. When Chang Yuchen met Yi Yun, he was considered a little genius. At that time, he was already a great monk in the Destiny Realm. Later, Yi Yun helped him deduce the Yuanyang hegemony Kung Fu, which helped him successfully enter the realm of life and death. As for whether Yi Yun finally broke through from the realm of life and death to the realm of eternity, it is unknown. 100,000 years, the sea has changed greatly. Yi Yan didn't expect it either. In the remote Xianyang county of the Kamikaze dynasty, one can meet the descendants of the Chang family. After all, the Chang family lived in the most prosperous center of Tsangnan continent. But, it is extremely difficult for a family to survive for 100,000 years. Yi Yan looked at the dark red spiritual tablet and gently flicked his sleeves to brush off the dust on it. At this time, his eyes were full of affection and he whispered, "Brother, I will help you take care of your descendants today." After saying that, Yi Yan regained his composure. He stood quietly in the dim light and shadow, dressed in white like snow, when that roar sounded like thunder over the Chang family. It also reached Yi Yan's ears at the same time. Yi Yan smiled faintly. When he arrived outside Xianyang County, he had already detected the crisis in Chang Mansion. The Chang family's ancestral kung fu, Yuanyang Ba Ti Kung Fu, is also considered a peerless kung fu that leads directly to the mirror of life and death. But if you want to practice this skill successfully, you must have a large amount of Yuanyang stone. But looking at the current Chang family, they can't even get a piece of Yuanyang stone. This shows that no one in the Chang family has practiced Yuanyang Ba Ti Kung for many generations. However, now that Yi Yan is here, he will naturally help resolve this crisis in the Chang family. At the same time, he will also help solve the problem of lack of cultivation resources. All this is not difficult for him. Yi Yan raised his head slightly and looked in a certain direction. At this time, in the main hall of the Chang family, Chang Feng's face became even paler when he heard the roar. The Shen family came anyway. "Dad, what on earth is going on?" That evergreen butterfly's heart trembled. The few auras floating down in the air turned out to be experts in the God-shaping realm. When did the Chang family provoke a strong man in the God-shaping realm? In Xianyang County, the Chang family was just a second-rate family, and the one with the highest cultivation level was his father, Chang Feng, who was at the 10th level of the Yuan High realm. There is no match for a strong person in the God-shaping realm. Besides, the Chang family has always kept a low profile and never caused trouble. Chang Feng stood up, cheered up, looked at Evergreen Butterfly, and said with a sad smile, "These are people from the Shen family. They don't know where they learned that our Chang family has Yuanyang hegemony kung fu, and they want to ask for this technique." Evergreen Butterfly was extremely angry, stared, and said loudly, "This is an ancestral technique of our family. It has been passed down for 100,000 years. It must not be leaked to anyone." "Daughter, you are right. Even if we die, we will never let our ancestors who have stood by us for generations fail." Chang Feng said firmly, "Although it is rare for descendants of the Chang family to practice Yuanyang Ba Ti Kung in later generations, they have never leaked the technique to others in the past 100,000 years. Therefore, Chang Feng had long been determined to die." He strode into the courtyard and saw 6 strong men in the God-shaping realm hovering in midair. "Shen Wei, I am a small Chang family. As for asking all 6 of the Shen family's powerful masters of the God-shaping realm to be dispatched." Chang Feng looked at the figure of the 6-path strong man and said loudly without fear. At this moment, Evergreen Butterfly was also standing beside her father. At this time, some members of the Chang family rushed to the courtyard from all directions. Everyone looked sad and angry. Su Wani also followed the Evergreen Butterfly out. She raised her eyelids and swept them into the air. "There are 6 strong men in the God-shaping realm. There are 2 strong men on the first level of the God-shaping realm, a strong man on the second level of the God-shaping realm, 2 strong men at the third level of the God-shaping realm. The burly middle-aged man standing in the middle has reached the 4th level of the God-shaping realm." Su Wani suddenly became thoughtful. She finally understood the deep meaning behind why her ancestors asked her to stay here. This crisis in the Chang family, the ancestors needed her to solve the problem. Thinking that she would be able to fight against a powerful person in the God-shaping realm in a short while, Su Wani's delicate body trembled slightly, and her heart was extremely excited. Midair, Shen Wei clasped his hands behind his back, looked at the weak Chang family members below, and said with a cold smile, "Originally, I gave you 3 days, just because I didn't want to bully the weak Chang family. Now that the 3 days have passed, if your Chang family doesn't, if you hand over your skills, don't blame me, Shen, for being ruthless." Shen Wei, just dream. Even if our Chang family dies and is exterminated, we will not hand over our ancestral skills. Chang Feng clasped his hands behind his back, his face tensed, and he looked at death as if he were home. My father is right, even if our Chang family fights to the last man, we will never hand over our ancestral skills. Evergreen Butterfly also drew out his own sword, pointed the tip of the sword at Shenwei, and clenched his silver teeth. The words were sonorous and meaningful, but Evergreen Butterfly was still young after all. Faced with the pressure of a strong man in the God-shaping realm, his body could not stop trembling. The Shen family is a powerful force in Xianyang County, and no one has ever dared to offend them. The Shen family also has a backstage. The family once had a disciple who joined the Demon Control Sect. There are 3 major forces in the Kamikaze dynasty, all at the level of major sects, and the Demon Control Sect is one of them. The Shen family is powerful and has a tough backing. It can be said that the entire Xianyang County family together does not dare to provoke the Shen family. When a powerful man in the God-shaping realm comes, the entire Chang family will be wiped out. You little girl, you must be Chang Feng's precious daughter. It just so happens that you are back too, so your Chang family can go underground to reunite. Shenwei smiled coldly. Next to him, a middle-aged monk at the first level of the God-shaping realm suddenly stretched out his hand and grabbed it downwards. In mid-air, a mana palm suddenly appeared and roared towards him. A flash of blood flashed, snapped. The mana palm was instantly shattered. This made the 6 powerful men of the Shen family stunned at the same time. In the Changjia Square, a stunning beauty wearing a golden robe was seen, holding a blood-red sword and looking coldly at the sky. You're a very cool girl. Where did you come from? It looks like the swordsmanship you use isn't the Chang family's swordsmanship. Shenwei's eyes fell sharply on Su Wani, and he looked up and down, with a hint of greed in his eyes. This little girl is very beautiful and has extraordinary skills. The long sword in her hand is of heavenly quality. The sword, he wants it, he also wants to get beauty. Chapter 66, Seal Release, Battle in the God-Shaping Realm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Shenwei was greedy and lustful, maintained a harem, and became famous throughout Xianyang County. Rumor has it that he had as many as 3,000 beauties in his harem. Shenwei didn't know where he learned the art of harvesting yin and replenishing yang. There were so many women around him, but his cultivation level had not fallen behind. He was still the person with the highest cultivation level in the Shen family, so when he saw Su Wani, he was immediately shocked. He was moved. We must capture Su Wani alive. He wants them all, including men and swords. Shen Ting, go down and catch that little girl. Shenwei was full of style and waved his hand. Okay. Shen Ting, who was on the first level of Yuan High Realm, nodded and landed, snapped. At this moment, some restraint in Su Wani's body was broken. The aura on her body suddenly surged. In an instant, he climbed from the 3rd level of Yuan High Realm to the 3rd level of Plastic God Realm. Hee, my ancestor lifted the seal on me. Su Wani was overjoyed. Sure enough, after entering the Chang mansion, all the changes were under the planning of the ancestors, just like in Silvermoon City. When Shenting saw Su Wani suddenly ascending from the Yuan High Realm to the 3rd level of the God-Shaping Realm, her eyes widened and she took several steps back. How come your cultivation level is in the realm of shaping the gods? Shenting said in shock. In the courtyard, all the Chang family members were also shocked. One by one they turned into clay sculptures. This. Chang Feng clenched his fists and looked at Su Wani blankly. This beautiful little girl is actually a strong person at the 3rd level of the God-Shaping Realm. Chang Feng looked shocked, and huge waves arose in his heart. At the age of about 20 years old, he was at the 3rd level of the God-Shaping Realm, which could not be found in the entire Xianyang County. I'm afraid only superpowers can have such talented disciples. Thinking of that immortal-like young man in white, who exuded a godlike temperament, Chang Feng knew that his cultivation might be even more astonishing. It seems, there is hope this time. Chang Feng thought of this and was so excited that his eyes filled with tears. This time, the spirits of the ancestors really protected the Chang family from this disaster of genocide. Chang Feng was so excited that he couldn't control himself. Among all the people in the Chang family, the one who was most shocked was Evergreen Butterfly. She and Su Wani entered the City Lord's mansion in Silver Moon City together that day. At first, she thought that Sister Su's realm was a level lower than hers and not as powerful as hers. Unexpectedly, Sister Su produced a golden light on the power measuring stone. After Sister Su participated in the Sanyuan martial arts tournament, she fought with many masters of the Yuan High Realm, and during the battle, she continuously broke through to the third level of the Yuan High Realm, leaving her far behind. However, what was even more unexpected was that Sister Su's cultivation was actually suppressed. Her true cultivation level is that of a great monk at the third level of the God-shaping realm. Sister Su, are you really a great monk in the God-shaping realm? That the shocked evergreen butterfly still couldn't believe it. Her eyes widened, her mouth opened wide, and her cute apple face was very lively and interesting at the moment. Yes, sister. Su Wani looked back at her, a smile appearing on her beautiful face. How is this possible? At this moment in the air, the expressions of Shenwei and other 5 powerful men changed. This little girl turned out to be a strong person at the third level of the God-shaping realm. So unexpected, however, Shenwei thought that if he could bring this girl into the harem, it would be his greatest achievement in his life. Shenwei's heart became hot, he waved his hand, and everyone fell down one after another. Shenwei was very confident. There are only 2 of his Shen family who are on the third level of the God-shaping realm, plus he is on the 4th level of the God-shaping realm. 6 people are more than enough to deal with a little girl who is on the third level of the God-shaping realm. Huh, what can you do if you are in the God-shaping realm? When you arrive in Xianyang County, in my territory, you can't make any waves. I think you should just surrender and be captured. Shenwei laughed arrogantly. Wishful thinking. Shameless person. Su Wani frowned, shouted angrily, and activated the Shenlong sword technique. In an instant, the shadow of a golden dragon more than 10 feet in size hovered behind her. The shadow of the golden dragon is condescending, and a pair of golden dragon eyes shoot out a cold gaze, giving people tremendous pressure. What kind of swordsmanship is this? Suddenly, the 6 strong men of the Shen family took half a step back, with shock on their faces. This sword technique has not been officially launched yet, and just making gestures puts tremendous pressure on them. Go. Let's take her down together. Shenwei's face was cold, he drew out his sword fiercely, and rushed over first. Seeing 6 people besieging Sister Su alone, Changledi raised her eyebrows and sneered coldly. 6 grown men from the Shen family bullied me, Sister Su. How shameless. Seeking death. Shen Ting was furious after hearing this, turned around and rushed towards the evergreen butterfly. Call. A golden dragon shadow flashed past, suddenly appearing in front of Shen Ting. Su Wani slashed out with her sword. Shen Ting was shocked. Unexpectedly, Amelia Su was so fast. However, the realm between him and Su Wani is too different, and they are no match at all. Bang. Su Wani's sword was as fast as thunder, sending Shen Ting's sword flying and chopping off half of his arm. Ah! Shen Ting screamed and flew backwards. Seeking death. Seeing this sudden change, Shenwei's eyes were about to burst. His sword was like lightning, and he stabbed Su Wani with his sword. The other powerful men in the God-shaping realm cooperated tacitly and launched fierce attacks from different angles. At this time, the injured Shen Ting had blood rolling down from his broken arm. He gritted his teeth and quickly tapped his body a few times to seal several acupuncture points before the blood flow slowed down. Shen Ting swallowed a pill, picked up the broken arm on the ground, and fled in a hurry. Now that he has no strength to fight anymore, he can't be of much help. If he goes back with his broken arm, he might still be able to reattach it. In the Shen family's treasure house, there is a precious plaster that has miraculous effects in reconnecting severed limbs. Swish, swish, swish. The sword light of the 5 powerful men of the Shen family fell like a tidal wave, but Su Wani looked calm and used the dragon sword technique to counterattack and fight with the 5 of them. For a time, the battle was extremely fierce and inextricable. Seeing that Su Wani still did not fall behind when facing the 5 powerful masters of the God-shaping realm, but instead fought vigorously. The evergreen butterfly stomped its feet excitedly. This Sister Su's strength is terrifying. Daughter, this time, our Chang family is saved. When Chang Feng came over, he burst into tears. Seeing her father crying so sadly, Evergreen Butterfly started crying too. At this time, she suddenly thought of her elder brother. Evergreen Dai wiped her tears and asked sadly, Dad, eldest brother hasn't shown up yet. Has he also been harmed by someone from the Shen family? 3 days ago, someone from the Shen family came and beat your eldest brother seriously. Chang Feng wiped away his tears and felt sad. He finally stopped hiding it and told the story of the unfortunate incident that happened in Chang Chang's house. Inside the ancestral temple, Yi Yun still stood calmly in front of Chang Yuchen's spiritual tablet. Today, after 100,000 years, he is accompanying this former brother. The door creaked and opened, an old man in grey clothes with a withered face pushed open the door and entered. Chapter 67. A drop of divine power opens up the meridians. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Yi Yun glanced back. This old man was around 80 years old, with a pale face and a haggard appearance. He had no cultivation and was just an ordinary old man. The old man's eyes widened and he did not expect that there would be a young man in white standing in the dark shadow in the ancestral temple. He was suddenly frightened. Is it because my old eyesight is dim, that the old man in grey clothes suddenly rubbed his eyes and laughed at himself with a wry smile? After he finished rubbing his eyes, he looked carefully and found that the young man in white was still standing not far away. At this moment, the vision became clear. The young man in white clothes had an outstanding temperament, standing there like an immortal, and it seemed that the entire ancestral temple was blooming with light. At this moment, the old man seemed to see a god. Excuse me, Your Excellency. Although the old man in grey clothes had no cultivation level, he was well informed after all. He quickly calmed down, clasped his hands into fists, and asked in a trembling voice. I have an old relationship with Chang Yuchen. Yi Yun spoke softly. What? Have a relationship with the ancestors? Moreover, he is also the first ancestor of their Chang family ancestral hall. The old man in grey clothes could not hide the turmoil in his heart at this time. He looked at the young man in white clothes again, but it was difficult to see any connection between this man and the ancient records in his family. It's been too long. Many things have been lost in the smoke of time. You don't have to work hard to find my origins anymore. Yi Yun smiled faintly. He looked at the old man in grey and asked softly, what is your relationship with Chang Feng, the head of the Chang family? I am Chang Feng's second uncle. I went crazy while practicing and my meridians were blocked, resulting in me becoming a disabled person. The old man in grey sighed and said. Yi Yun remained silent, just looking at him quietly. The old man in grey clothes shrugged and said with a self-deprecating smile, now that the Chang family is about to be destroyed, there is no use for me, a cripple, to go out. I might as well come to the ancestral temple, and finally accompany the ancestors, and then go to the underworld to meet them. Seeing the old man in grey say these miserable words, Yi Yun sighed lightly. 100,000 years ago, what a glorious scene the Chang family had under the leadership of Chang Yuchen. Unexpectedly, 100,000 years later, the Chang family would have been reduced to the point of annihilation. Think of this. Yi Yun gently touched his hand, and a bright light flew out from his fingertips and landed on the old man's head. The old man in grey felt his eyes suddenly light up, and before he could react, a powerful energy poured into his head. Next, the old man in grey eyes widened. The special energy that entered from the Baihui point on the top of his head was like an invincible army, and it began to rush towards his meridians that had been blocked for decades. His meridians began to open up one by one, and gradually, he could feel the spiritual energy between heaven and earth. It only took a few breaths for the violent energy to open up all the meridians in his body. And then fell into his dantian, turning into abundant mana. In an instant, the aura on his body suddenly increased, from the Qi training realm to the Xiandan realm and then to the Yuan Hai realm. It soared all the way, and finally stopped at the third level of the God-shaping realm. What the hell is going on? That the old man in grey clothes was as shocked as a stone sculpture and could not move. The young man in white opposite him just tapped his hand and a ray of light shot into his body, opening up all the meridians that had been blocked due to his obsession many years ago. Finally, that energy has not dissipated. After falling into his dantian, he turned into a huge amount of mana, which not only restored him to the God-shaping realm, but also raised him from the first level to the third level of the God-shaping realm. The old man in grey clothes knelt on the ground with a plop and kowtowed to Yi Yun repeatedly. Chang Qingsong is short-sighted and has neglected his senior. Please forgive me. That the evergreen pine kowtowed violently, making a bang-bang sound. Although the young man in white told him that he was once an old friend of his ancestors, he did not take it seriously. Chang Yechen's ancestor was already 100,000 years ago. How could someone live for such a long time? However, he didn't expect that this godlike young man in white would casually click on him, and his meridians that were possessed by the devil would be opened immediately, and his cultivation would return to the realm of shaping the gods. Thinking of this, Chang Qingsong was filled with shame and kept kowtowing to express his inner repentance. Get up. Yi Yun smiled lightly. This behavior of evergreen pine is also human nature. After all, it is rare in the world for people to live for 100,000 years in Sangnan continent, therefore, it is reasonable for Chang Qingsong not to believe that he and Chang Yechen are old. Yi Yun does not blame him. For Yi Yun, it was just a simple task to cure the blocked meridians of evergreen pine. A drop of divine power entered Chang Qingsong's body and solved all his problems. Senior, your seniority is too high, I really don't know what to call you. Chang Qingsong was still kneeling on the ground, not daring to get up. Just call me senior. Yi Yun smiled slightly. You can't let Chang Qingsong call him senior ancestor, right? That sounds really weird. It doesn't fit the normal title either. A burst of magic power swept out from Yi Yun's sleeves, lifting evergreen pine up. Yi Yun doesn't like these red tapes. He always felt uncomfortable when he saw someone kneeling at his feet. Chang Qingsong stood in front of Yi Yun with a reserved look on his face, his hands intertwined and held tightly, not knowing what to say. There are disciples of my Shenlong Sect outside, helping to kill those people from the Shen family. You don't have to go out anymore. Here, tell me about your Chang family's affairs. Yi Yun said calmly. Hearing Yi Yun suddenly say the three words Shenlong Sect, a flash of lightning suddenly flashed in Chang Qingsong's mind, and he remembered many things in an instant. He stuttered and said, Senior, you turn out to be the one from the Shenlong Sect. Yi Yun nodded. After receiving the affirmative answer, Chang Qingsong was so excited that his old face turned red. He never expected that the senior in front of him would be the youngest sect leader of the Eternal Level Sect, the Shenlong Sect, 100,000 years ago, the most powerful man in Sangnan continent who is said to be expected to reach the true God realm. The ancestor of his family, Chang Yechen, once left some family records and told some anecdotes about him and the leader of the Shenlong Sect. Senior, I'm really excited. Chang Qingsong was at a loss. At this moment, his blood was boiling and his emotions could no longer be controlled. This senior was invincible throughout the entire Sangnan continent 100,000 years ago. Unexpectedly, still alive today, Chang Qingsong could hardly imagine the earth-shattering level of cultivation of the senior in front of him. Yi Yun was silent and did not speak. It took a while for Chang Qingsong to calm down, and then he told some things about his ancestor Chang Yechen. Chang Qingsong didn't know much about his ancestor Chang Yechen because of the long distance, so he finished the story in less than half a pack of cigarettes. Yi Yun sighed and his eyes fell on the dark red spiritual tablet again. He, a good brother, failed to break through to the eternal mirror after all. Stuck in the realm of life and death, with a thought in his mind, Yi Yun suddenly raised his head and looked into the distance. Over the Shen family in Xianyang County, suddenly an old man in black robe fell down. On the back of the old man's black robe was embroidered a large red word Roy, and below the word Roy, there was a small word Devil. This old man's cultivation has reached the 4th level of the Divine Bridge Realm. When he shows up, the entire Shen family felt the powerful pressure of the Divine Bridge Realm. Their expressions changed dramatically, and it became difficult to breathe. Chapter 68 The Demon Control Sect, the strong man from the Shenqiao Realm arrives. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Feeling the powerful aura, everyone in the Shen family poured out into the courtyard, knelt on the ground, and kowtowed respectfully. Welcome to Elder Zhu. Countless people roared loudly. The sound was earth-shattering. The person who came was Elder Zhu from the Demon Control Sect. The Demon Control Sect is one of the 3 big sects in the entire Kamikaze dynasty. It is a giant level force, and this Elder Zhu is a supreme powerhouse at the 4th level of the Shenqiao Realm. To the people of the Shen family, he is almost a godlike existence. In mid-air, Elder Zhu saw the respectful attitude of the Shen family, and a slight smile appeared on Ling Jun's face. Everyone, get up. Elder Zhu landed from the sky, waved his big hand, and a burst of magic swept out, lifting everyone on the ground. He looked around and said calmly, Where is Shen Wei? What happened to the things I asked him to do? An old man in black hurriedly bent over, ran forward, and explained, Elder Zhu, the head of my family went to the Chang family to ask for that skill, and he hasn't come back yet. Forget it, I'll wait for him for a while. Elder Zhu waved his sleeves and prepared to enter the main hall to wait. At this time, a ray of light suddenly fell from midair. Second uncle, open the treasure house quickly and take out the black lotus intermittent ointment. As soon as Shenting landed on the ground, he grinned and shouted in pain. He hasn't seen Elder Zhu next to him yet. Elder Zhu's eyes flashed, and he saw Shenting holding a severed arm. He frowned and asked, how come you, a monk who has cultivated the realm of gods, are still being chopped down on 1/3 of an acre of land in Xianyang County? Lost your arm? Shenting took a closer look and saw Elder Zhu of the Demon Sect clearly. He was immediately shocked and hurriedly knelt on the ground and said tremblingly, Shenting didn't know that Elder Zhu is here. Please forgive me for any offense. I don't blame you. Let me tell you, who hurt you? Elder Zhu smiled faintly. He is a third-level monk of the Chang family who is in the realm of God-shaping. Shenting hesitated for a moment and told the story half truthfully and half falsely. Elder Zhu frowned and said, when did the Chang family have a monk in the realm of shaping the gods? Shenting shook his head and said, Elder Zhu, I don't know, he seems to be a foreign monk. Now the clan leader and others are fighting with her, and it shouldn't take long to kill the woman. Elder Zhu looked at a certain direction in the sky, feeling a little uneasy. He did not completely trust the Shen family. He wants to seize the Chang family's Yuanyang hegemony Kung Fu. It is said that it is a powerful technique that can directly lead to the realm of destiny. 5 years ago, he accidentally obtained a small Yuanyang stone mine, so he searched everywhere for ways to practice Yuanyang Gong, but he didn't expect that by chance, he would get amazing news. The Chang family of Xianyang County has an ancestral skill. Once this skill is assisted by Yuanyang stone, it is said that it can reach the highest level of destiny. Elder Zhu was immediately moved, thinking that he happened to have a certain friendship with the Shen family of Xianyang County. He wrote a letter and Feijian passed it over to let the Shen family get this technique in advance. He also set out from the Demon Control Sect and went straight to the Shen family. Elder Zhu heard from hearsay and didn't know much about Yuanyang Ba Ti Kung in fact, this Yuanyang hegemony body skill can not only lead directly to the realm of destiny, but can also be practiced to the realm of life and death. After all, this technique was once demonstrated by the strongest man in Sangnan continent. I made up my mind. Elder Zhu immediately left through the air and went straight to the Chang family. At this moment, in the Chang family, Su Wani, Shen Wei and others were still fighting fiercely. Although Shen Wei's side was outnumbered and powerful, he was already at a disadvantage at this moment, being suppressed by Su Wani. Some people started to get hurt. Shen Wei secretly complained in his heart, I didn't expect that this stunning beauty would have such superb swordsmanship and such amazing power. The 5 powerful men surrounded them together, but none of them were opponents. If they really continue to fight, they will be completely wiped out in the end, but it is simply impossible to withdraw now, because once they withdraw, they will probably be defeated one by Su Wani, and it will be difficult to escape the end of the entire army being annihilated. It's the time when it's hard to get off the tiger. A familiar voice to Shen Wei suddenly resounded over the Chang family. Shen Wei, you are really not ordinary weak. You were bullied into this by a little girl at the 3rd level of the God-shaping realm. No wonder your Xianyang County can't produce talents. The words fell. The coercion of a powerful person in the Shenqiao Realm descended from the sky. All the members of the Chang family suddenly felt their knees weak and could no longer stand. Some knelt on the ground and some fell to the ground. Chang Feng looked up and his expression changed drastically. He discovered that an old man in black robes from the Shenqiao Realm was standing in mid-air. Identify carefully. Chang Feng was horrified to find that the person who came turned out to be a member of the Demon Control Sect. The rolling pressure of the divine bridge fell. At this moment, Su Wani's movements were also a little slow. Elder Zhu stood in the void, with his hands behind his back, like a god's mansion, with a faint light emitting from his body. He didn't take action directly. After all, he is a strong man in the Shenqiao Realm and has his own dignity. As long as he releases his pressure, the little female monk in the God-shaping realm below will be greatly suppressed. This creates favorable offensive opportunities for Shen Wei and others. Inside the ancestral temple, Yi Yun smiled lightly. The black carriage parked outside the Chang's family suddenly emitted a ray of light and quickly landed in the Chang's courtyard. The light dissipated, and a boy of 14 or 15 years old appeared. Little junior brother, seeing Lord Grimm suddenly appear, Su Wani was surprised and happy. My junior brother is a strong man in the Shenqiao Realm, he is extremely powerful and can fight across levels with ease. Su Wani believed that the old man at the 4th level of the Divine Bridge Realm would never be his rival. Lord Grimm quickly looked at the whole place and understood. He drew out the Hunyuan Wuji sword and laughed loudly. Senior sister, let me help you. Speaking of which, Lord Grimm rose into the air and stood in the void, facing Elder Zhu from a distance. He's actually a young man from the Shenqiao Realm. Elder Zhu stared at Lord Grimm who suddenly appeared. After feeling the other person's aura, he couldn't help but be surprised. At the age of 14 or 15, he has already cultivated to the level of Shenqiao. Even in the Demon Control Sect, he is still the top genius. Old guy, you dare to bully my senior sister, I will teach you a lesson today. Lord Grimm shook the tip of his sword, making a light clearing sound, and a huge phantom of a divine dragon immediately appeared behind him. This divine dragon phantom was larger and more solid than Su Wani's. The golden dragon was entrenched in the void, and its pair of golden eyes exuded a cold gaze, which made Elder Zhu feel frightened. He looked serious and quickly drew his sword. The young man in front of him, even though he was only at the 1st level of Shenqiao Realm, gave him a great sense of crisis. Chapter 69 Total Defeat, the situation is over. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Inside the ancestral temple, Chang Qingsong was also using his spiritual consciousness to explore the situation in the courtyard ahead. When the strong man from the Demon Control Sect on the 4th level of Shenqiao Realm appeared, he was shocked, but what he didn't expect was that a young man from the Shenqiao Realm fell from the sky. This young man turned out to be that girl's junior brother. That means that both of them are senior disciples of the Shenlong Sect. Seeing that the boy was already at the Shenqiao level at the age of 14 or 15, Chang Qingsong couldn't help but feel extremely envious. The power of the Shenlong Sect is unimaginable, especially since the senior in front of him has lived for 100,000 years, and his cultivation is unfathomable. He may have become a godlike existence long ago. Yi Yun looked outside calmly, with a smile in his eyes. In mid-air, sword energy spreads across the air. At this time, Lord Grimm was fighting with the elders of the Demon Control Sect. As soon as he took action, Lord Grimm had an absolute advantage and completely crushed his opponent. Yi Yun nodded secretly. The previous experience with Lord Grimm was quite effective, but now that he has taken action, he has shown his superiority in leaping ahead. Facing the 4th level of the Divine Bridge Realm alone, he did not fall behind and still had the upper hand. This shows that Lord Grimm's potential is being squeezed out, but in Yi Yun's heart, this was not enough. After all, this is just the Kamikaze dynasty, and at the same level, the monks here are not considered powerful. If Lord Grimm can maintain this advantage against the powerful Shenqiao Realm in the Heavenly Sect, then he has barely passed the test. Bang bang. In mid-air, two powerful men of the Divine Bridge Realm were fighting fiercely. Elder Zhu felt quite horrified and extremely aggrieved. He didn't expect that he, a strong man at the 4th level of Shenqiao Realm, would be pressed down and beaten by a boy of 14 or 15 years old. The opponent crushed him in terms of swordsmanship, speed, and strength, but below the courtyard, Shen Wei and others were at a disadvantage once again without the help of Elder Zhu. Su Wani showed her power and attacked with dense sword light. Shen Wei's body was immediately covered with blood. The lives of the 5 Shen-shaping monks in the Shen family are in danger. Without the pressure of the powerful Shenqiao Realm masters, everyone in the Chang family stood up. The ancestors have appeared. God bless my Chang family forever. Watching the two battles in the air and underground, Chang Fenglao burst into tears and laughed with excitement. Dad, Sister Su's junior brother, I didn't expect to be a strong man in the Shenqiao Realm. That the evergreen butterfly was wiping her tears beside her, crying and laughing at the same time. Originally, when the Shenqiao Realm elder of the Demon Control Sect arrived, Evergreen Disc felt like the sky was falling. Unexpectedly, things suddenly took a turn for the worse. Sister Su's junior brother fell from the sky and resolved the crisis in Chang Mansion invisible, whether it is the 5 powerful men of the Shen family or the elder of the Demon Control Sect in the air, they are no match for Su Wani and Lord Grimm. Every one of my disciples is so ridiculously strong. Master, how strong should he be? That evergreen butterfly stood there, stunned. she suddenly remembered everything that happened in Silver Moon City that day, from the great change of the Silver Moon werewolves to the subsequent disappearance of the entire Silver Moon City. It was as if the world had evaporated. Now that Evergreen Butterfly thinks about it, he probably understands that it must be the Master's grand gesture. Thinking of this, she was filled with shock. Such a huge Silver Moon City disappeared as soon as it was said to disappear. How powerful is this power of creation? It is not difficult for a strong man to destroy a city, but let a city disappear into thin air without a trace. Even a strong person in the Destiny Realm can't do it, right? With Evergreen Butterfly's knowledge, she could only estimate that she had reached the Destiny Realm. Puff. Lord Grimm became more and more courageous as he fought, and stabbed Elder Zhu's shoulder with a lightning-fast sword, immediately creating a bloody hole. Elder Zhu screamed, turned around and ran away. Lord Grimm chased after him in a few breaths. He chased after Elder Zhu and struck him with another sword. In a hurry, Elder Zhu quickly raised his sword and turned around to attack, but he was still slashed by the sword on his arm. Just wait, our Demon Control Sect won't let you go. Elder Zhu, who was hit by 2 swords in a row, lost all face and his face turned red. He suddenly took out 2 talismans and put them on his legs, activated his movement skills, and disappeared in an instant. These are 2 extremely high-grade magical talismans. It can increase his speed by at least twice. Even if you run to the end of the world, I will still catch you. Lord Grimm snorted, immediately activated the 9 transformations of the Divine Dragon, and frantically chased Elder Zhu in the direction of his escape. At this moment, in the Chang family courtyard. A Shen family monk who was on the 3rd level of the God-shaping realm screamed and was killed by Su Wani on the spot with a sword. The defeat of Elder Zhu of the Demon Control Sect gave the 5 Shen-shaping cultivators of the Shen family a head-on blow. Each of them was in a state of confusion, and their swordsmanship also showed flaws. Therefore, Su Wani seized the opportunity and killed 4 powerful men in the God-shaping realm in succession. In the end, only Shen Wei was left. Seeing that the situation was over, Shen Wei retreated, trying to escape from here, but how can his body skills compare to Su Wani's 9 transformations of the Divine Dragon? A dragon shadow appeared in midair, and from above, a sharp sword light struck at Shen Wei. Shen Wei screamed, his head was missing, and he died on the spot. Seeing that all 5 powerful men of the Shen family were killed by Su Wani, Evergreen Dai rushed over excitedly and hugged Su Wani excitedly. Sister Su, thank you so much. Without you, our Chang family would have been exterminated today. The Evergreen Butterfly burst into tears and burst into tears. It's all over and everything will be fine. Gently patting the little girl's back, Su Wani said with a smile. Inside the ancestral temple, Yian looked at Chang Qingsong and said calmly, go to the Shen family. Yes, senior. Chang Qingsong's mind was clear and he immediately knew what he should do. He walked out of the ancestral temple in an excited mood and turned into a stream of light that broke through the sky. There is also Shen Ting, who is in the realm of God shaping, who slipped through the net. He must kill him to avoid future troubles. At the same time, there is no need to keep the entire Shen family. After all, the 2 sides have sown hatred. If they are allowed to remain, the Chang family will be in trouble sooner or later, and he is now a strong man at the 3rd level of the God-shaping realm. He can take down the entire Shen family by himself. Yi Yun looked somewhere. Lying on the bed was a pale young man. This is Evergreen Butterfly's brother. 3 days ago, he was seriously injured by someone from the Shen family. Yi Yun took out a small bottle, poured out a drop of liquid, flicked it with his finger, and the drop of liquid fell through the void into Chang Yizhou's mouth. Chang Yizhou, who was unconscious, suddenly absorbed this drop of mysterious green liquid. Suddenly, the entire body began to be enveloped in layers of green light. This green light exudes a strong light of life, and his damaged internal organs, meridians and bones are recovering rapidly. It takes a few breaths. All Chang Yizhou's injuries improved. As soon as he opened his eyes, he sat up suddenly. What happened? Why are all my injuries healed? Chang Yizhou jumped from the bed to the ground and looked around in shock. Suddenly, he heard the noise outside and walked out quickly. Several corpses were found lying on the ground, and almost everyone in the Chang family gathered around them. Dad, what happened? Chang Yizhou walked quickly to Chang Feng and asked in a low voice. Chang Feng turned around and saw that Chang Yizhou was standing beside him in high spirits, showing no sign of serious injury. His eyes suddenly widened and he said in a trembling voice, Zhou, your injuries, are they all healed? Chapter 70 Parting Gift, Farewell to Brother. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dad, all my injuries are healed. Chang Yizhou looked around with a confused look on his face. Until now, he doesn't know what happened. Chang Feng looked at his son in shock, feeling that everything that happened today was too incredible. My son's serious injury healed instantly. What happened? Could this be the work of the young man in white? Oh my God! This is simply a miracle. Chang Feng was extremely horrified. He simply couldn't imagine what kind of miraculous medicine there was in the world that could make a seriously injured and dying person stand alive in front of him in an instant. Dad, tell me quickly. Seeing his father in a daze, Chang Yizhou quickly urged him. Is such that? Chang Feng quickly recounted what happened after the Shen family arrived. At this time, Evergreen Butterfly also noticed that her elder brother was coming, and quickly ran over and added in the incomplete parts of what her father said. After understanding it, Chang Yizhou looked around with a shocked look on his face. One of the 6 masters of the Shen family's God-shaping realm escaped, and 5 died in their Chang family. The patriarch of the Shen family, Shen Wei, is also dead. And the powerful Shenqiao Realm member of the Demon Control Sect was actually injured by a young man and escaped. All this feels like a dream. A figure suddenly fell from the sky and landed in the courtyard. It is the evergreen pine that has gone and returned. After he easily dealt with the Shen family, he quickly returned. Second uncle, how come your cultivation has recovered? Chang Feng looked at his second uncle Chang Qingsong with a shocked look on his face and his eyes widened. All the Chang family members around were extremely shocked when they saw Evergreen Pine. My second uncle has been obsessed with madness for decades and has always been an ordinary person. Why did he suddenly return to the 3rd level of the God-shaping realm after not seeing him for a while? Looking at the surprised looks of the tribesmen around him, Chang Qingsong smiled slightly and walked over. It was Senior who saved our Chang family. He said with a smile. Chang Feng understood immediately and couldn't help crying with joy. Chang Yizhou was still confused. He quickly pulled Chang Qingsong's sleeve and asked from the side, Second Grandpa, what is going on? Chang Qingsong smiled and shook his head. Senior's identity is too sensitive, so it would be nice if the topic only came to him and it was over. At this time, Yiyan walked out slowly. Ancestor. Su Wani quickly put away the 7-star Longyuan sword, then walked over obediently and bowed. Yiyan nodded. Senior, you're out. Chang Qingsong also quickly went over and bowed. Yiyan smiled and gently tapped the ground with his hand. A black-yellow light rose from the ground and surrounded the entire Chang family's mansion. A large formation was formed in an instant. Yiyan took out a formation disc and handed it to Chang Qingsong. At the same time, he said with a smile, you will keep this formation. No one below the Destiny Realm can break this formation. Thank you, Senior. Chang Qingsong took over the array and was extremely excited. With a plop, he knelt on the ground. Thank you, Senior, for your kindness in rebuilding my Chang family. Chang Feng, as the clan leader, also knelt on the ground excitedly. Behind him, all the members of the Chang family were kneeling on the ground at this moment. Now everyone in the Chang family understands. Today's crisis was averted all because of the action of this mysterious young man in white who looked like a banished immortal. Your Chang family's Yuanyang body hegemony magic skill. If there is no Yuanyang stone, there is almost no possibility of successful cultivation. Suddenly, Yi Yun looked around and tapped his finger lightly in the sky, and a cyan vortex suddenly appeared. This vortex emits powerful spatial fluctuations. What's this? Chang Qingsong stared at the whirlpool, feeling suddenly excited. Could this be a secret place? The senior created a secret realm as soon as he took action. Isn't this amazing? Yi Yun touched his wrist and then flicked it. A ray of crimson light was injected into the cyan vortex. He slowly said, this is a small secret realm that people of extraordinary blood cannot enter. The Yuanyang stone inside should be for you to practice. Thank you, Senior. Chang Qingsong couldn't bear it anymore at this moment and burst into tears. It was because of 100,000 years of brotherhood that the seniors treated them, the descendants of the Chang family, with such good intentions. A powerful formation was arranged, and a secret realm was created to hide a large number of Yuanyang stones, which solved the dilemma of their being unable to practice Yuanyang hegemony for many years. This kind of kindness, even if it is broken into pieces, it cannot be repaid. Chang Qingsong burst into tears, and other members of the Chang family, including Chang Ludi, Chang Yizhou and other younger generations also shed tears. They were extremely grateful and excited, and at this moment, outside the Chang mansion, there is a black carriage. The big black cat sighed and said with tears in his eyes, "I'm so touched. Master is really so kind." That the big black horse also shed tears. It smiled and said, "My friend from 100,000 years ago, I believe it is time for me to smile and close my eyes under the 9 springs." Yi Yun's face remained calm, as if he had turned a blind eye to all this. He said calmly, "This secret realm is opened every 5 years, and each opening lasts for 1 month. You must seize the time to mine Yuanyang stone." "Okay, senior, we all remember it," Chang Qingsong quickly said gratefully. "Okay, we should go." Yi Yun glanced at Su Wani, turned around and walked towards the door. He did not teleport, but walked extremely slowly. Step 2, 3 steps. He seemed to be saying a final farewell to his good brother Chang Yuchen in this way. Su Wani followed closely behind her ancestor. When she walked to the door, she waved to the evergreen butterfly, moved her lips, and said goodbye. The black carriage drove slowly away from the gate of Chang Mansion, seemingly slowly, but after walking 100 meters, it suddenly disappeared at the end. Senior has left. Chang Qingsong wiped the tears from his eyes and stood up. Sister Su. Evergreen Butterfly was still immersed in the sadness of Su Wani's departure, and she couldn't stop crying. Second uncle, what is the origin of this senior? Chang Feng came over and asked curiously. Don't ask, senior's identity is not something you and I can guess. After Chang Qingsong finished speaking, he narrowed his eyelids and looked at the entrance to the secret realm above his head. Now that the entrance to the secret realm is open, we must seize the time to mine the Yuanyang stone. All members of the Chang family should go in immediately. Chang Qingsong waved his hand and issued the order for family mobilization. All the members of the Chang family rose into the sky and entered the blue vortex. Light flickered in front of their eyes, and when they regained their sight and got their feet on the ground, they were suddenly stunned by the scene in front of them. This is a small secret realm with rich spiritual energy, green grass, gurgling rivers, and a large mountain in the distance that stretches for several miles, exuding an amazing fire element. The figure flashed. Evergreen Pine was the first to arrive near this red mountain. He touched the mountain with his hand, feeling the special breath, and fell to his knees on the ground, crying uncontrollably. All the Chang family members heard the sound and rushed over. Everyone looked at the mountain carefully, and everyone looked shocked. This entire mountain is actually filled with Yuanyang stone. Senior, he actually gave us a mountain. The evergreen pine was crying and laughing, as if it were crazy. All the members of the Chang family knelt on the ground at this moment, respectfully kowtowed 3 times in front of the red mountain. With this Yuanyang stone mine, the Chang family can recreate the glory of their ancestors 100,000 years ago. A book club group has been established, 5640322246. Everyone is welcome to communicate and discuss.